The execution arena. The Kryllian Colosseum of Vanta-9 was not a place for justice. It was a place for entertainment. A vast circular pit carved into an asteroid's core, surrounded by tiered observation decks filled with roaring alien spectators. Every seat was occupied. Every species had gathered for one purpose: to witness a human execution. The announcement had been simple. Human prisoner scheduled for public termination. Compliance broadcast guaranteed. Humans were rare here, not respected, not feared, just misunderstood in a way that made them useful for spectacle. To the Kryllian Empire, humans were classified as unstable endurance-based organisms with unpredictable emotional output. In simpler terms, good for fights. The crowd chanted as containment doors opened. 2. The human in chains. A single human was lowered into the arena. No armor, no weapons, only restraint markings fading from his wrists. His name was Kael Riven, though the arena didn't bother announcing it. Names were irrelevant. Outcomes were not. Across from him stood the opponent. A Kryllian combat unit. 3 meters tall. Exoskeletal armor fused directly into muscle tissue. Control implants embedded along its spine. Glowing faintly. A weaponized being. Not fully alive in the legal sense. Just optimized violence. The crowd screamed, "End him! Show US human weakness!" The announcer's voice echoed. "Begin execution trial." Tone sounded. The fight began. 3. Expected violence. The Kryllian unit moved first. Fast. Mechanical. Precise. The strikes were not emotional. They were programmed. Kael dodged the first impact by centimeters. The second grazed his shoulder. Blood appeared. The crowd roared louder. They expected collapse. They expected panic. They expected the human to fight like an animal. But Kael didn't. He observed, measured, adjusted. Not like a gladiator, like someone reading a broken system. The opponent struck again. Kael blocked, not to counterattack, but to study the rhythm beneath the aggression. And then, he saw it. The pattern. A micro delay in movement every time the implant pulse flickered. He paused mid-fight, just for a fraction. That was not fear. That was recognition. For the real target. Kael stopped attacking. The crowd hesitated, confused. The Kryllian unit charged again. This time faster. Kael stepped aside, let it pass, then whispered, "You're not fighting me." The crowd didn't understand. The unit turned, prepared to strike again. But Kael wasn't looking at its fists anymore. He was looking at its spine, at the glowing control lattice. And he said softly, "You're being driven." A pause. The crowd began shouting, "Kill him! Stop talking!" But Kael ignored them, because something more important was in front of him. Not an enemy. A controlled system. 5. The moral break. The Kryllian unit attacked again. Kael moved inside the strike range. Too close for comfort. The crowd gasped. This was it. The killing moment. But instead of striking back, Kael grabbed the opponent's arm. Held it steady. Not resisting forcefully. Guiding it. The unit tried to overpower him. But Kael wasn't fighting strength. He was fighting structure. He rotated the arm joint slightly, not to break it, to expose the spinal implant access channel. The crowd started shouting louder, "Finish him!" But Kael didn't. Instead, he drove his fingers into the control interface along the spine. The arena froze for a split second. Even the announcer went silent, because what happened next was not expected. 6. The implant break. Kael didn't destroy the opponent. He disconnected it. One by one, neural control links snapped. The glowing spine implants flickered. The Kryllian unit froze mid-motion. His posture shifted. Not aggressive anymore. Confused. For the first time, it hesitated. Then staggered slightly. Kael stepped back. Hands still raised. Non-threatening. The crowd erupted. But not in joy. In confusion. Why is he not killing it? Finish the execution. This is illegal behavior. But Kael simply said, "It's not a fighter." Pause. "It's a tool." 7. The arena reaction. The announcer panicked. Human prisoner is deviating from combat protocol. But Kael wasn't deviating. He was correcting the assumption. The Kryllian unit dropped to one knee. Its implants fully disabled. For the first time in its existence, it was not receiving commands. It looked at its hands, then at Kael. Not as enemy, but as something unfamiliar. Autonomy. The crowd grew restless, because the spectacle was breaking. They wanted death. They were getting silence. 8. The unexpected mercy. Kael could have ended it easily. The opponent was still dangerous physically, but he didn't. Instead, he stepped closer, slowly, carefully, and placed a hand on the now-disabled spinal interface. He said quietly, "You're free now." The Kryllian unit didn't understand language, but it understood absence. Absence of command. Absence of pain-driven impulse override. Absence of control loops. It stood slowly, unstable, not violent, just uncertain. And that uncertainty was more powerful than rage. 9. The crowd turns. The audience began to shift emotionally, not all at once, but gradually. Some shouted in anger, others in confusion, because the expected outcome had failed. No execution, no spectacle, no blood victory, just a human standing in an arena, next to a freed weaponized being. Kael looked up at the stands, and said, "You wanted an execution." Pause. "But you built a cage instead." Silence spread, because they realized something uncomfortable. The arena was not for punishment. It was for control reinforcement. And Kael had just broken the reinforcement logic. 10. The final inversion. Security units began mobilizing, not because Kael had killed anyone, but because he had undone the system's purpose. The Kryllian unit stood behind him now, no longer controlled, no longer weaponized, just present. Kael looked at the incoming guards, then at the crowd, then at the broken control systems blinking across the arena, and said calmly, "You trained them to obey signals." Pause. "I just showed them silence." The arena alarms triggered, but Kael didn't move, because he didn't need to escape. He had already changed what this place was designed to be. Final line. And in the heart of the execution arena that was built for blood, the galaxy witnessed something it had no classification for. A human who refused to kill his opponent, and instead killed the idea that the opponent ever belonged to anyone.